There is a particular kind of panic that never raises its voice. It wears the disguise of normal life. It's the man who triple checks his bank account every night as if the numbers will tell him that he's safe. It's the leader who's always ready with an explanation why the choice she didn't make was the only choice worth making. It's the neighbor watering the lawn with religious devotion, as if the grass might die and take the whole fragile world with it. This is what people do when life feels too big to manage. They tighten their grip on whatever small thing they can still hold on to. Abram, in our first reading today, knew this kind of panic. The kind that grows in your chest when a promise starts to feel like a cruel joke. God had told him, your descendants will be numerous like the stars, and at first that was exactly what Abram wanted to hear. But after years of waiting with no child in sight, it started to feel impossible. The gap between God's promise and Abram's reality kept stretching wider and wider until it was unbearable. So Abram did what most of us would do. He reached for control. He drew backup plans, naming Eliezer of Damascus as his heir. Anything to help the story make sense again. Can't you just imagine Abram trying to explain all of this at his next family reunion? No, this is Eliezer. He's going to inherit everything. No, he's not related. No, Uncle Heron, I don't have kids yet. Yes, God promised. Okay, enough already, Uncle Heron, please pass the hummus. But don't we do the same thing? When the news is filled with endless stories of natural disasters and suffering and mass systems of evil that go unchecked, I don't know about you, but I often just feel helpless. Like there's nothing I could possibly do to make the world a better place. Maybe you feel this way when your child is making self-destructive choices and nothing you say seems to reach them. Or when your company starts to downsize and you know no amount of hard work is going to keep you safe from the layoffs. Or a loved one's health falls off a cliff and you know that this is the beginning of the end for them. What do we do in the face of moments like this? I think many of us, like Abram, try to control what we can. Abram named Eliezer his heir, but we might rearrange the family room, or clean the hall closet, or water the lawn again. I know I do this. I'm pretty sure the only time our coffee pot gets cleaned is when I'm overwhelmed and stressed. I know I was clinging to control like this past March. I was back in my hometown because my mother had been moved to hospice care, and at the same time, my father was admitted into the ICU. And so my sister and I split our days between being home with mom or at the hospital with dad, and then halfway through, we'd switch places. It was exhausting, physically and emotionally, not least of which because there was nothing we could do. We didn't know why dad wasn't getting better, and we knew mom wasn't going to get better. Everything was outside of our control. And so here's what I did. I didn't clean the coffee pot, but instead, every night after everyone went to bed, I would stay up late and do things for work. Because after all, if you get your inbox down to 0, everything will be fine. My late night work sessions were just another version of what Abram was doing. Reaching for control when life felt unmanageable. You see, as the absurdity of the world around us seems to grow each day, as we face staggering inflation and precarious international relations, along with the everyday struggles of our homes and our families and our jobs, amid all of this, it can be really easy to feel like Abram. It can be really easy to wonder if God has forgotten the promise. And so we just need to control what we can. When the world seems so absurd, I think we all start to believe that everything is just up to us. I think, though, the beginning of our gospel passage this morning really is Jesus' answer to this prevalent, nagging question. We wonder, is everything just up to us now? And Jesus says, do not be afraid, little flock. And then Jesus talks about selling possessions and giving alms and making purses that don't wear out. At first glance, this sounds backwards. Shouldn't we be holding tighter to what we have when everything feels uncertain? But Jesus isn't telling people to get busy securing their future. He's telling them to let go of their need for control. Now, I'll be honest. Do not be afraid, little flock. At first, just sounds like a cheesy greeting card or a bumper sticker. It's right up there with when God closes a door, he opens a window, which, by the way, sounds a lot like breaking and entering, but I digress. I think Jesus knew that comfort speak sounds hollow in the face of real crisis. And that's why he doesn't just offer us platitudes. In the parable that Jesus shares, the servants are waiting for the master to return from a wedding feast. And we expect the usual ending. The master is late and the servants are impatient, but when the master arrives, he's going to punish those servants who gave up their post. Only that's not at all what happens. Jesus flips the narrative entirely. The master walks in and he sits down and serves the servants. This reversal shows us that God doesn't demand our frantic effort to earn security. Rather, God freely gives what we need. This is absurd in the best way possible. And you know what? This type of absurdity is exactly what our faith is built on. It's not greeting cards and quaint aphorisms. Our faith is the transformative belief that God steps into the absurd and takes it into God's self, and in so doing, breaks its power. Jesus came down from heaven and endured betrayal and mockery and state-sanctioned violence, and he met it all with a stubborn, self-giving love. The cross is absurd by the world's logic, but God's wisdom says that the cross becomes the place where we get to discover that it's not all up to us. Jesus walks into the panic and the pretending and the absurdity, and he takes it all unto himself, and in return gives us peace and hope. And I know it sounds like it's just another quaint phrase, but I really mean this. When you really trust that Jesus has taken on the absurd for you, all you're left with is peace. The kind of peace that loosens your grip. The kind that lets you stop demanding airtight explanations for everything. The kind that makes you show up even when you're not sure how it will end. You become the kind of person who can risk love and risk generosity and risk forgiveness because you know that Jesus has already secured the ending. So often, when the struggles of this life feel like they're too much, we tighten our grip on whatever small thing we can still hold on to. But the gospel says you can let go now. Jesus has taken hold of the absurd so you don't have to. You can loosen your grip and be freed to show up as a loving presence in someone else's chaos. It sounds absurd, but it's this type of absurd love that has and that will continue to change our world. Amen.